Super fighting gamer. Quarter guy. Over the years, few franchises have developed as long and storied a history as Mega Man. What started with a humble NES title in 1987, over the years became one of the industry's most prominent names, particularly in the 90s and early 2000s. It's gotten to the point where we have generations for this series, 7 of them in fact, but the one that usually got the most attention, even more so than the classic series, was Mega Man X. This spin-off series was an enhancement over the classic series in almost every way, with a more developed story and characters, more fleshed out gameplay, and an overall better feel to it, if sometimes inconsistent. So what happens when a spin-off gets a spin-off? Well, in this case, we get Mega Man X Command Mission, a live-action RPG released for the GameCube and PlayStation 2 in 2004. The game was developed by Capcom Production Studio 3, which was not only responsible for the X series starting with X5, but also developed the critically acclaimed Breath of Fire 4. So is this a mission worth accepting, or are you better off letting the disc self-destruct? Command Mission, being a non-canon spin-off, takes place in the year 22XX, 100 years after the events of the main X series, which would put it at the same time frame as the Zero series. The story is set into motion with the discovery of Force Metal, a mineral that increases a Reploid's abilities, from a meteor that landed on Earth. An artificial island named Giga City was built to develop the mineral, and all seems to be going well until, that's right, Uprising. The rebellion, led by a Reploid named Epsilon, and not Sigma, banishes all humans from the island and seizes control of Giga City. Epsilon is branded a Maverick, and you know what that means! So X and Zero, along with a new partner named Shadow, are sent to investigate and bring him down. But the team barely sets foot on the island when... Betrayal! X, now separated from his friend and partner, is left on his own and must gather allies in his stand against Epsilon. Along the way, he meets the death-dealing mercenary Spider, the cowardly tank Massimo, the cunning thief Marino, and the sweet and adorable healer Cinnamon, and is later reunited not only with Zero, but also their shape-shifting ally Axel in their mission to take down Epsilon and his allies. While the story is rather straightforward, I feel it works in the game's favor, since it also follows with the stories of the other X games, which, while darker than the classic series, also tend to be rather straightforward. Sometimes RPGs have stories that are too complicated for their own good. Kingdom Hearts. With Command Mission, you have a story that's simple enough to follow, but not too simple. Except for one part. I'll get to that later. "22XX, we live in the future now, and this game's presentation looks and sounds the part. The character models utilize the anime-esque cel shading style made popular by games like Jet Set Radio and Wind Waker. The models themselves look great, being vibrant and colorful. I especially like the updated look for X. His armor looks really slick in this incarnation, and I think the Photon Scarf adds a nice touch to him. Scarf's the important thing, you know? The enemies also look good, and they come in a lot of different varieties. The environments, on the other hand, seem a little bit more generic. I don't know, there just seems to be too much metal. I mean, yeah, this is Reploid world we're talking about, but previous X games have had a little bit more variety in the environmental design. As for the soundtrack, I hope you like techno because that's what most of the songs are. On occasion, you'll get tracks with a different instrumental set, but not often. Now, this isn't necessarily a bad thing. The tracks, for the most part, fit the areas that they cover, and the character themes are probably among the most memorable in the game, particularly the ones for the Power Trio. As for the voice acting, it's not too bad actually. Granted, it's not the kind of voice acting that we get from today's standards, but for the most part it's nowhere near as cringeworthy as the series has had in the past, which has actually led to several voice actors returning for X8, particularly Lucas Gilbertson in his performance as Zero, which a good number of fans consider to be synonymous with the role. That is until he got replaced in Marvel 3 by Johnny Young Bosch. Now, in terms of gameplay, it's basically your standard JRPG fare, divided between exploration and combat. In the field, you explore different areas as you progress through the story. These areas are filled with various obstacles, puzzles, treasures, and enemies which you fight to gain experience, Zenny, and Force Metal energy. At the end of each area, you typically fight a boss. These areas are connected by a central hub, which serves as your base of operations. Here you can buy items and equipment, as well as refill your sub-tanks. Yes, they have sub-tanks in this game. Now in terms of strengthening your character, you have one of the game's gimmicks, Force Metal. These are items that you can equip to grant your characters additional abilities. You can buy them, win them in battle, steal them from enemies, and use the Force Metal generator to create them once you get it. Each character has a specific number of slots for Force Metal. However, you need to be careful that your erosion doesn't go over your character's maximum. Otherwise, you'll be penalized for it. And naturally, the stronger the Force Metal, the higher the erosion. So you need to balance your current needs with what your characters can handle. This adds a nice layer of strategy to your optimization. Another thing in the game that I think is cool is that throughout the areas you can find broken mechanoids which you can send into the areas to mine items. Gotta love those side quests when you can get them, right? Now for the other part of the gameplay. Combat in this game is turn-based, with your life and weapon energy and turn order displayed on the bottom of the screen. I like when RPGs display the turn order. It helps you plan your strategy. You control up to 3 characters at a time, and each character is allowed to use their equipped sub-weapons followed by a turn-ending action, which can be a standard main weapon attack, a menu option, or the character's action trigger. Each character has a unique action trigger, which can be activated when the character has 50% or more weapon energy, and these can really help you tip the battle in your favor. Also unique to each character is their hyper mode, which, as the name implies, is a powered-up form for each character which boosts their stats for a certain number of turns before cooling down. This is best used for tougher enemies such as bosses. Also, once you have at least 4 party members, you can tag out at any time without penalty, which is always a good thing. Finally, if you can do enough damage to an enemy within a single turn, you can finish them off with a devastating final strike. So satisfying. All things considered, there's a lot to like about this game. Like I said, I really like how well the character models are handled. Each of the characters and enemies looks colorful and full of life. Even the NPCs look good. The music also sounds good, for the most part. Of course, your enjoyment of the soundtrack will depend on how much you like techno, as it makes up a good majority of the soundtrack. But like I also said, a lot of the tracks are good and they fit the areas. Same goes for the character themes. Also, I like the voice acting for the most part. There are a few questionable voices here and there, but overall, it's solid. The story for the most part also manages to be solid. It's not as complicated as certain other RPGs, Kingdom Hearts, but it still has enough twists and turns to keep you engaged in the story and its characters, which are admittedly pretty well written. But the combat system is where the game really shines. It's fast-paced and engaging, and it gives you a good variety of options with which to plan your strategy, and the fact that you can see the turn order really helps. I also like the Force Metal system, as it gives you an additional layer of strategy. You really need to consider which abilities your characters can benefit from the most, given your current situation. Another thing I like is that there's so much to collect. Not only in the form of figures, but also other little things, like sound tests and even changing the color of X's scarf. However, with the good comes a few things that don't quite stack up. Alright, let me recap what I've already stated. While the characters look vibrant enough, the same can't exactly be said for a lot of the environments. While the variety is there, they don't feel as alive as in other games in the main X series for the most part. They feel a little generic. My other issues stem from the game's flow. For one thing, for an RPG, there really aren't a lot of side quests. Apart from the mechanoids, there's just a few optional bosses, and that's really it. Also, the game, for me at least, was a bit on the easy side. On the plus side, that means grinding can be kept to a minimum, but on the minus, it does lower the challenge factor. Well, except for the optional bosses, those can get ridiculous. Finally, remember how I said that the story is solid for the most part? Yeah, the exception is, and I won't spoil just what it is, that there's a plot twist right near the end of the game that is both obvious and comes right out of nowhere. And to be honest, feels kind of forced. Yeah, it's one of those plot twists. Even with those issues, Mega Man X Command Mission is a fun and enjoyable RPG spin-off that manages to do justice to the series. There's a lot to enjoy both for fans of the genre and fans of Mega Man X alike. True, it doesn't exactly break a lot of new ground in either, and there are issues that prevent it from earning the full dollar, but if you're looking for something different from your Mega Man, I'd say it's worth picking up. I'm giving Command Mission a solid 75 cents, and my hope that in time, this game will be appreciated for what it is. I'm the Quarter Guy, and considering all the drama that's surrounded Keiji Inafune and his Kickstarter projects ever since he left Capcom, there's a big opportunity to be had here. In fact, Capcom sent out a survey to people in Japan who bought the Mega Man Legacy Collection in order to gauge interest in seeing the series continue. Granted, there were more people who wanted to see Legends 3 finally be made, but there was some marked interest in seeing X9. Well, here's hoping. You know, for all the lectures he's given me, all the times he's nagged at me, and all the times we've argued, my dad's always been there for me. I just wouldn't be the person I am today without him. Wait, why am I telling you about my dad? This is a video game channel, god damn it! Next time, Top 10 Dads in Video Games. It's game time! Thanks for watching my first review in, like, forever. I'm actually planning a Let's Play of this game, so look forward to that. In the meantime, be sure to check out the playlist annotations for my other stuff. As always, feedback is appreciated, I've got my social media, and the occasional live stream on Twitch. Don't forget, I've got a Patreon where you can support the channel and score some cool perks. Thanks again, and until next time, this is the Quarter Guy, signing out.